Sports Professor Rick Horrow, Beyond the Scoreboard, the show that goes way beyond and behind the trillion-dollar business of sports marketing, legal, politics, administrative, everything other than X's and O's, although obviously what we talk about directly affects X's and O's as well. Now that everybody can focus on gambling and everybody focuses on the beginning of the NFL season and the college football season, it's more important than ever to get into this. And if you want to take a look at all of the items that we have on our 15 to watch topics, 15 news, 5 tech, 5 philanthropy, go to NBCWashington.com, go to @RickHorrow, HorrowSports.com. We have it on our website every week, including past weeks. You can get all of the big topics in order of my perception of importance. You may have different opinions, but you spend 5 minutes reading that, and you're going to be very well versed as you get into the next week. We'll cover some of that on the show, but we also have to cover a big-time interview this week. By the way, before we start, if you want to subscribe to us on the Apple Podcast, Google Play, Audio Boom, Stitcher, iPhone's feed, look for us everywhere. Today, we'll focus on college football and pro football, kind of at the beginning of the show. But before we even do that, it is football season. It is clear. Quick tease, right after we set some tables here, we'll talk to Nick Saban, probably the most important, influential, inspirational coach in the history of college football. Bear Bryant may have something to say about that, and others may. But the guy's won 6 national championships. He's the 4-time SEC Coach of the Year. He's a 2-time Associated Press Football Coach of the Year. Coach of the Year, and so many awards you can't even believe it. And he's developed a machine. We're talking to him not just about football, we're talking to him about the meaning of life. His dad was a major Pop Warner coach in West Virginia, and Nick Saban took the values his dad learned, and he learned from Pop Warner, and told some really special stories about football and about life. Nicholas Lou Saban Jr.
We're going to take a short break, but when we return, more Rick Horrow, the sports professor. Welcome back to Beyond the Scoreboard with Rick Horrow. We pick up right where we left off.
So Pop Warner football was a big part of your dad's life. Tell us what you remember about growing up in West Virginia and being your dad's son, basically.
Yeah. Well, I had great parents. I was very fortunate, but anyone out there that their dad has been their coach, that's an experience in and of itself. But my dad actually started Pop Warner football in our area in West Virginia. And it was a difficult area because we had like 7 coal mining towns that were up in hollows, and the players had a hard, they couldn't get to practice because we all got around hitchhiking, and if the shift didn't change, there wasn't much traffic. So a lot of them didn't play sports. They didn't have the opportunity to get some of the lessons, life lessons that you can learn from playing sports. So my dad bought this little orange school bus, all right, and it had all these quotes like it's, things that would help you be successful, like it's more important to be nice than it is to be important, things like that.
Did he buy the bus with the quotes on them, or you put them on?
No, he put them all on there. But we would go to practice. He would go pick up everybody in all these hollows, take them to practice. We would practice, take everybody home, take about 45 minutes. And of course, I was the first one on the bus and the last one off because that was home. That was the home stop. But he really taught us the importance of work ethic, investing in your time and something rather than spending it. You reap what you sow, perseverance, and how you have to continue to learn from your failings, how to overcome adversity, discipline to do things right. the old saying that I say all the time, you're going to suffer through one of two things in life, the pain of discipline or the pain of disappointment. That was on the bus. It was there. All right, so all these things go way back.
Yeah.
But the opportunities that created, I mean, I know he had, not outside of myself, 3 players that, made All-American at West Virginia University and graduated from college and had a lot better lives, and they may never have participated if it wasn't for that. And I'm sure that if you ask any of them, they would say, just like me, that a lot of those things that I learned playing, the value of athletics is really, really important to developing a lot of the characteristics that help you be successful in life. Pride in performance, overcoming adversity. I mean, all kinds of things as a competitor that makes you have a much better chance to be successful in life.
And obviously, your dad instilling important values with you and the sayings on the bus, but how did he and Pop Warner impact how you coached before and how you coach today?
Well, I think because I started at an early age, and the importance was always on fundamental execution. I mean, we won a whole bunch of games in a row. Like, I can't even remember how many. We didn't win any the first year, but after that we won them all. But the emphasis was always on fundamental execution. How well you block, how well you tackle, and it was technical. You had to technically do it correctly, which was the safest way to do it too, which was important. All right, so, and to this day, with all these schemes that everybody runs and RPOs and spread and this and that and all that, we're still always talking about fundamental execution. If we can block better and we can tackle better and we can do the fundamental things more correctly, play better as a team, play together better as a team, execute, I mean, that's what they preached, to us. Because we didn't probably have a whole lot of plays. My sister's here because she has a grandson that goes to our camp, right now. And she has the playbook. It was simple, pretty simple. But we won on execution, and I still believe in that.
Well, and the interesting thing as far as the dynamic of Pop Warner even today and building the brand, it's standing for consistency, certain values, safety as well. So you said safe. Talk about that for a little while.
Well, we've actually done something here, and we have a camp for young kids, 8 through 12, I think it is, where most people just have high school camps and try to use them to recruit. We're really trying to promote our game, but we're also trying to develop coaches. And one of the things that we've done in this young camp is we bring in a lot of Pop Warner coaches. We invite a lot of Pop Warner coaches to come in, and the primary reason is we want to teach them, some technical aspects that will make the game safer for the players. And tackling is a big one. We teach near leg, near shoulder tackling, not hitting with your head. All right, well, that's really, really important. I think it makes the game safer. I think there's a lot of ways that you teach drills, all right, where players don't have to be on the ground, all right, and they can use their hands rather than their head, all right, to minimize contact. And I think a lot of these things are really, really important. Most players that get hurt in football get hurt on the ground. Somebody's rolling around on the ground and somebody else falls on them or whatever. So to stay off the ground and teach people how to stay up. These are all things that I think promote safety in the game. And I think the biggest mistake that we make in football is you don't have to have full contact to be able to get the benefit from the game.
Yeah.
You know, you can go out and practice 7-on-7. You can practice routes on air. You can practice one-on-one. You can practice a lot of things and get a lot out of the game of football without having to have contact. And I think there's certainly been a lot of studies done on how much contact young people before they're 12 years old should have. And I think we should all take all those things into account, and we are going to do everything we can to promote better education in the coaches to teach the players safety in our game.
And the most important aspect of that sounds like is the ability to understand fundamentals, fundamental execution, and the teaching of that, as opposed to the politicizing, give up football, I'm not allowing my kids to play. It sounds like the secret sauce is the education early on.
Well, that's what we believe in, because I think football is the greatest team game that there is, and I don't think it's a dangerous game, but I think that it can be if it's not coached, where people are doing the fundamentals correctly, and not putting their players in positions where they're going to get multiple, head banging that could, promote, issues. And I don't think that we have to do that to have a good game, and I don't think you have to do that to be a good coach. And there's a lot of these old-fashioned bull in the ring type drills that have no place in football, right, that nobody needs to do. And that's one of the reasons that we want to get as many of these coaches here and try to show them a better way, that they can be more effective in their teaching progression and actually create more safety for the player.
Let's talk about the better way off the field. The Knicks Kids Foundation, what you've done with Terry as far as some of the issues, not only the capital improvements, but the tornado relief in Tuscaloosa. Talk about all of that from your perspective.
Well, that goes back to my dad, too, because he didn't just pick these kids up in that bus and take them to practice. He sort of adopted them all. All right, so
we're going to take a short break, but when we return, more Rick Horrow, the sports professor. Welcome back to Beyond the Scoreboard with Rick Horrow. We pick up right where we left off.
Our basketball blew up. He took them to town and got him another one. When the rim at the church wasn't shootable anymore, he got him a new one. My mom always said, if you ever have the opportunity, your dad's legacy was to help young people. Do something to do that. So Knicks Kids stands for Big Nick, not Little Nick. I'm Little Nick. All right, but Miss Terry and the people who support Knicks Kids have done a phenomenal job of, I think, being able to create a lot of positive things in our community. We've done the 17 for 17, which is 17 homes that we've rebuilt since the tornado for every national championship, and our players have contributed to each one of those homes. We have player days where they come and work, and they give back to the community as well. We've given over $7 million to children's organizations in the Southeast over the last 10 years. We do first generation scholarships, community center at the church. We're building a school at the Juvenile Delinquent Center to promote education, graduating from high school, and teaching a welding trade. So these guys aren't repeat offenders. They have something they can do in the community. So all these things give us tremendous positive self-gratification by giving back, helping other people. Don't really feel much that we do that makes us feel better than when we help someone else. And my dad's old saying was, no man stands as tall as when he stoops to help a child. So that's what we tried to carry on, and we're going to try to continue that in the future, and we certainly thank all the people who have supported Nick's kids.
And the first scholarship that Pop Warner ever named after a person specifically was Nick Saban's scholarship, and it's not you, it's your dad.
It's my dad.
How does it make you feel?
That's great. It makes me feel great.
Yeah.
Because it's all a part of his legacy. You know, it's all the things that was important to him, and I hope that, you know, people appreciate and remember that.
So just a broader perspective, Pop Warner also teaches leadership and obviously discipline, focus, some of the traits you were talking about. And so how do you make sure that your kids, you recruit and have an obligation long term, do the right thing, say the right thing, behave the right way off the field as well?
Well, you know, our whole goal in the program here is to help our players be more successful in life for having been involved in the program. So, you know, their thoughts, their habits, their priorities, the choices and decisions they make are going to go a long way to helping them create value, and that starts with the kind of person that they are, the kind of character they have, the kind of integrity they have, the kind of trust you can have in them. And that all comes from the basic values that we try to establish that they have to buy into to really play and be to the standard as a person, as a student, and as a player that we would like for them to be. And we try to create a culture of accountability for them to do that. But I'm very pleased and proud with the success that we've had. But those same things, just so everybody's clear, I had the opportunity to learn when I played Pop Warner. And I think that's the one thing that everybody should really, really focus on, is if we don't have these kind of sports opportunities for our young people, where do they learn these things and what they do now? And, you know, in some cases, you know, kids don't even play outside anymore. Yeah. All right, but they will go outside for organized activities. And I think these organized activities, the commitment, the work ethic, the discipline, the focus, all the things that you mentioned are really important. And where do you get that if you don't participate in something?
And substantively, you understand it, it's easy, you're speaking from the heart, you were a defensive back at Kent State, and then you went through, now you're on the greatest leaders in the history of the world list from Fortune magazine. It is kind of interesting. How much of that was intuitive, and how much of that is just learned from heroes and history, and, you know, where does that all come from?
Well, I think it started when I was young, and I think it started with the lessons I learned from my parents. Yeah. They had a high standard and high expectation, but they also had tremendous compassion for other people. And it was always instilled in me that you need to set a good example. You need to be somebody that somebody can emulate. That was the expectation. But there was also an expectation there that you have to care enough for other people to help them for their benefit. And the combination of those two things, I think, is the fundamental start of being a leader, because those two things are really important parts of being able to impact other people. And it was always about just do it for one person. I think a lot of people think leadership has to be a group dynamic. Mm-hmm. It's not. It's the power of one. It's one person affecting one person who affects another person, and then it just grows. So I think it started at an early age for me. And then I think I was really fortunate that I had some great mentors. You know, my high school coach, Earl Keener, Don James, my college coach, fabulous, you know, example of what you needed to do to be successful and to be a good leader. And so I feel very, very fortunate with those opportunities, and then the opportunities I had as a coach to impact other people in a leadership position. And that's the one thing that I think I'll miss most about coaching, is not being a part of a team and not being able to lead and impact other people when the day comes that I can't do this, which I hope is not soon.
It's kind of fun to end on this. So I'm a Miamian, and we've got a kid who is a defensive back, but he's being called a Swiss Army knife because he's going to play everywhere. And Minka Fitzpatrick writes a kind of farewell long letter. He says, "Thank you, Alabama." And he said, "I chose Alabama because I wanted to be at a place that would push me to become the best version of myself I could possibly be, and man, did it ever." You read something and you hear something like that, and I'm sure it makes you proud.
No doubt. I mean, it really does. And that's what we want for our players. We want them to have a great experience here, feel like they've grown as people, and that they have a better chance to be successful in life, on and off the field. I think Minka probably is one of those guys that will be a tremendous ambassador because of the experience he had here. And I think that's a basic fundamental part of having great tradition, which has always been something that makes Alabama special.
Well, as you continue to go through the maelstrom of college football as it evolves, you don't need me or anybody else to say this, but just stay the way you are. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it very much. Yeah, you can tell Nick Saban is pretty influential and inspirational. Especially, he doesn't get worked up very much in an interview. He sees the press as a cautious ally. We really got him to open up. It has nothing to do about me. It has everything to do about Pop Warner and everything to do about his dad. And when you listen to him and how genuine that is, it is heartfelt. And he certainly instills all of this in the factory that is the University of Alabama. Well, let's jump up a little bit to the first week of the football season. Ratings expected to be down about 5 to 7%. Unrest at the top of the broadcast partner company group likely doesn't help NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell slumber either. Most recently, the ouster of CBS Chairman Les Moonves on Sunday. But how many times have we talked on this show that a 5 to 7% drop in eyeballs on traditional television may only mean that people are watching it on the internet, on iPads, on phones, and the like. We don't know for a fact, and at some point, sooner or later, we're going to start figuring out how to measure apples to apples, and then the conversation is valid. Until then, leave me alone. The meaty main course of college football's opening week came and gone. Time for dessert. Top teams are being treated to, get this, before we continue with the NFL, pricey cupcakes. About $175 million will exchange hands between college football haves and have-nots to fill out non-conference menus in 2008, most of them over in Week 1. In Week 2 alone, Arkansas State, though, got $1.7 million to travel to Tuscaloosa for that beatdown by Alabama. Western Michigan, about $1.2 million for the number 21 Michigan deal. But the cupcake revenue wars will be won by Kent State, who pockets $3.65 million in appearance fees with Illinois, Penn State, and Ole Miss. How sweet it is. But the bottom line is, let's not call them cupcakes. Let's call them funding their athletic programs, and let's call the other Power 5 guys getting...
We're going to take a short break, but when we return, more Rick Horrow, the sports professor. Welcome back to Beyond the Scoreboard with Rick Horrow, the sports professor. We're going to rewind our featured interview, reset the show a little bit, and pick up from there. Here's Rick Horrow.
Non-conference menus in 2008, most of them over in Week 1. In Week 2 alone, Arkansas State, though, got $1.7 million to travel to Tuscaloosa for that beatdown by Alabama. Western Michigan, about $1.2 million for the number 21 Michigan deal. But the cupcake revenue wars will be won by Kent State, who pockets $3.65 million in appearance fees with Illinois, Penn State, and Ole Miss. How sweet it is. But the bottom line is, let's not call them cupcakes. Let's call them funding their athletic programs, and let's call the other Power 5 guys getting into shape. It's probably a better spin. Back to the pros, the Raiders could be leaving the Bay Area a year sooner than expected. Team executives stated they won't sign any future lease agreement at Alameda County Coliseum should any lawsuit be filed, and the lawsuit seeks millions of dollars in damages for the team's exit to Vegas. Oakland Councilman Noel Gallo noted the lawsuit could result in up to $500 million in damages being paid out by the NFL and the Raiders, franchise currently under a year-to-year lease with the Coliseum Authority, but in a temporary bind paying the construction of its new stadium in Nevada. One possible alternative to staying in Oakland any longer could be playing home games at the Niners' Levi Stadium, though owner Mark Davis can't stand Levi Stadium, it is said. And regardless of where the Raiders play next year, Oakland fans no doubt wish one Raiders fixture still call the Bay Area home, Khalil Mack. Bears paid him $141 million, and he had an amazing game, just not an amazing second half. Despite falling into a break back to the NFL and not getting involved as an active player, former Niner quarterback Colin Kaepernick, the new face of the 30th anniversary Just Do It campaign for Nike. We know about that. It's called a Know Your Rights campaign. His message of standing up for what he believes in still resonates with athletes and fans all around the country. And shows a black and white photo of his face and reads, "Believes in something, even if it means sacrificing everything." Since tweeting the photo on the account, campaign generated about $43 million in free advertising for Nike. $43 million. Research conducted by Edison Trends has also revealed that Nike's online sales surged 31% Sunday through Tuesday, a noteworthy measure for any campaign. Gambling, NFL, Nielsen, everybody else, $2.3 billion to the NFL, a study commissioned by the American Gaming Association. Assuming that following the Supreme Court decision to legalize sports betting in all 50 states, media rights fees, sponsorship by betting operators on teams, ancillary advertising, and the purchasing of official league data are all set to increase going forward. Obviously, the league data alone would contribute $30 million per year to the NFL's top line. The AGA, not opposed to the idea of betting operators pursuing the official league data and purchasing it, but opposed to the idea of operators being forced to do so. The sports gambling market, still in a state of infancy, we understand that. Years to go until it finally matures, though the outlook is positive for the NFL here. Very clearly, more money, franchise values, and on and on and on. Cardinals have a new stadium naming rights deal. State Farm. Cardinals signed a State Farm deal, 18-year. University of Phoenix is a title sponsor gone. State Farm now there. The University of Phoenix paying between $8 and $9 million per year since signing in 2006. News of the deal comes less than a week after the Atlanta Hawks announced State Farm as their new naming partner, changing Phillips Arena to State Farm Arena for this coming season. The 20-year deal reportedly worth $175 million over its lifetime, making it the fifth largest naming rights deal in the NBA currently. We think we give a far broader audience than we've ever had. State Farm Executive VP and Chief Agency Sales and Marketing Officer Rand Harbert on the two deals. In both cities, it'll help us connect not only the fly the brand flag, but also to do good. And the 0-1 Cardinals need to win a few games before State Farm changes its mind. They won't, but they better win some games. And on the field, Buffalo Wild Wings unveils a new partnership with DraftKings, the custom game that will be exclusively available in all Buffalo Wild Wing restaurants this season. Escape to football, fantasy football available on mobile through the Blazin' Rewards app, made exclusively available to guests at Buffalo Wild Wings restaurants. Also reportedly exploring nationwide in-store sports betting as legalized sports wagering is approved state by state. Exploring is one thing, doing it is another. Let's see what they do. Before we go any further, I want to talk a little bit about the NFL 19 shooting that took place in Jacksonville about 2 weeks ago. $1 million donation by Electronic Arts dedicated to supporting the victims, a fund created so individuals can contribute and add to the contributions made by EA. And meanwhile, the company set up a live stream on September 6th that paid tribute to the victims of the Madden 19 NFL shooting in Jacksonville to help bring the community closer together at the time of mourning. Here's the other issue, which I think is very important as well. Everybody talking about the esports growth, boom, it's under control. Some say it's not. Others say. Remember, we were also talking about the Olympics. Well, and I think a really welcome move, IOC President Thomas Bach warned that the violence will need to be eradicated from esports before competitive gaming is considered for inclusion at the Olympic Games. Speaking at the Asian Games in Jakarta, Bach remained uncertain as to when esports might be incorporated into the games, but was adamant that there are still several hurdles competitive gaming needs to overcome before it fits in with Olympic values. He said, we can't have an Olympic program, a game in which is promoting violence or discrimination. So-called killer games, they, from our point of view, are contradictory to the Olympic values and cannot, therefore, be accepted. Esports were included for the first time at the recently concluded Asian Games as a demonstration sport, featuring tournaments in League of Legends, Hearthstone, Pro Evolution Soccer, and StarCraft 2. The IOC also been exploring the possibility of including competitive gaming at the Olympics and recently held an esports forum in July at its headquarters in Lausanne, Switzerland. That particular meeting resulted in the formation of an esports liaison group, which will continue to communicate to identify opportunities for the Olympic movement and esports to collaborate in the future. And despite those positive steps, Bach's latest comments suggest esports Olympic bow could still become way off. His remarks came as Asian Games organizers expressed sympathy for victims of the recent deadly shooting at an esports tournament in Jacksonville, but that is absolutely correct. There is a long, long way to go. Talk about hockey for just a couple of minutes. Hockey in Seattle. It's going to happen soon, may happen sooner than we think. A group in Seattle set to present to NHL's executive committee next month for an expansion franchise. That meeting on October 2, and if the presentation meets approval, the full Board of Governors may vote in December in Florida. The ownership group, commonly known as NHL Seattle, comprises some of the area's America's most successful businessmen. MLS Sounders owner Adrian Hanover, Chris and Ted Ackerley, whose father was a longtime Sonics owner, Amazon Web Services CEO Andy Jassy, and others. Boston Celtics minority owner David Bonderman gives the potential franchise another touch point in professional sports, lending additional credibility to the group with the hope of impressing the executive committee next month. And one other NHL issue, as the teams get ready to report to preseason camps, franchises will experience a boost in revenue this season as the league is permitted to sell 4 new in-ice advertising positions located in the corner. The addition is particularly noteworthy considering it's the first time the league has added inventory inside the rink this millennium. And it's been expected and estimated that each of the advertisers can expect to receive 20 to 25 minutes of exposure per game. And according to league sources, the new in-ice advertising positions are being sold in packages and partnerships that cost 7 figures. And while the in-ice advertising focuses on indoor rinks, the NHL has made it clear that a priority moving forward is involving the 8 NHL teams that have yet to play outdoor games in an open-air contest with all the usual advertising and marketing bells and whistles. Let's also kind of come to an end with soccer. Nashville's MLS Stadium finally has concrete and approved plans to be built. The Metro Council gave final approval to 3 ordinances and a resolution for the much-debated $275 million stadium at the fairgrounds. The 2020 debut and 2021 stadium opening, $225 million in revenue bonds can be issued, and the ownership group led by purchasing and publishing magnate John Ingram will pay $9 million per year over a 30-year period to repay the bonds. In addition to building the 27,500-seat stadium, construction plans call for a 10-acre mixed-use development, housing, retail, and a hotel built on the fairgrounds site. And Nashville, over the last decade, developed quite a hipster reputation. The MLS franchise not only boosts an appeal with millenniums, but also soccer younger siblings, focusing on the game. How about Miami? The Herald says that International de Football Miami, the official name of the franchise, still lacks a final stadium deal. Proud day for myself and the entire team, says David Beckham. It's an honor to announce the new club name and crest to our fans. The team name is meant to pay homage to the diverse population that constitutes Miami and South Florida as a whole. Inter Miami CF, the club's shortened name, set to begin play in 2020. No doubt the club will add to Miami's long and colorful sports legacy, of which I've proudly played a part of, but yet get the stadium done. Yep, get the stadium done. One final issue before we're finished. Really kind of important issue given philanthropy. Group 1001 and IndyCar rookie driver Zach Veach has announced a partnership with leading education technology company provider EverFi that'll bring hands-on STEM teaching to classrooms nationwide and inspire the next.
We're going to take a short break, but when we return, more Rick Horrow, the sports professor. Welcome back to Beyond the Scoreboard with Rick Horrow. We pick up right where we left off.
Finished. Really kind of important issue given philanthropy. Group 1001 and IndyCar rookie driver Zach Veach has announced a partnership with leading education technology company provider EverFi that'll bring hands-on STEM teaching to classrooms nationwide and inspire the next generation of engineers. The interactive STEM program called Endeavor introduces middle and high school students to accelerate exciting careers in technical fields and uses gamified lessons to encourage and prepare students for a career in STEM. As part of the course experience, students will virtually hear Veach talk about his passion for STEM, the incredible amount of technology that he leverages while piloting his car, and the critical role his engineering and pit crew teams play in powering his performance. Said Dan Towers, CEO of Group 1001. We know that initiatives at the intersection of sports and education bring positive social change and can help the next generation of learners prepare to solve the challenges of tomorrow through STEM. As the first auto sports driver to join EverFi's impressive roster of athlete ambassadors, Zach is the perfect role model for kids. He has an unmatched passion and dedication to what he does and is now using his understanding of math and engineering to begin achieving his dreams as an Indy driver. And by the way, interesting to note that 80% of the nation's fastest growing careers require skills from one or more STEM fields, both outside and inside of sports. Well, that's it for this fast-moving podcast this week. We'd like to thank Nick Saban and his folks for agreeing to a really insightful interview. Dan Martin, and Tanner Simpkins for helping to put the podcast together. And as usual, thank you all for watching and listening. And join us next week when we go Beyond the Scoreboard.